Like one guy kind of seemed like a weird little snake, and one guy seemed like this like little mole rodent. Welcome. It's Talking Shit with a Yank.
And a Brit.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Gemma.
I know who you are. God.
Ah, sorry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, grand. A little bit
Grand.
tired, but pretty good.
You look like you're glowing.
I am burnt.
You look just like you have a nice kind of glow and, like a little rose, but you don't look like a lobster or anything. Oh, your nose is a little
Look at my
pink.
nose.
Wear sunscreen. God.
I did, but I'm still burnt.
You have to put it on more than once.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I put it on once and hoped for the best.
I've taken to wearing hats now. My dermatologist was like, the best thing to do, and this is why you'll see dermatologists in hats, is just wear a hat and sunscreen, but also a hat.
I do wear a hat. I just didn't take a hat with me this weekend, so I had no choice but to sit in the sun and turn into a lobster.
What'd you do?
I had a gig on Friday night
Mhm.
at a lovely pub down in Brighton. Went very well.
Good.
Good crowd. Everyone said it was great.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate your
I
feedback.
know I didn't come say hi, but I was there.
Oh, is that you in the back corner?
Wearing the hat.
Just with the sunglasses and the and then last night I went glamping at a vineyard,
Fun.
which was really fun. Weather's been lovely.
Yeah, I
And,
was going to ask.
yeah.
The weather must have been nice because glamping in English rain seems like it would suck.
Probably would, yeah. But yeah, it's
You
been
still
very
do it
nice.
though. You still got to
Yeah,
do it. Otherwise, when would you?
exactly. Our lives would come to a halt
Mm-hmm.
if every time it rained we did. I've heard that like in like sunny places like LA and California and things, like when it rains everyone's like, I can't do anything because it's raining.
I feel like that's true, though I would only really know just based on like there's a podcast I listen to. I think you know it, My Favorite Murder. Sometimes they'll talk
Mm.
about how it's been raining and it's like a big fucking deal for a couple different reasons because it hadn't rained in so long and maybe there was like a drought and because you can't do anything. I think it's probably similar to in the states that don't get snow and they
Right, yeah.
lose their collective minds.
Mm.
So,
As
yeah.
we do here when it
Hmm.
snows. Mm.
Yeah. And that's okay. No judgment, but we get it all. So we have to deal with it all.
Mhm. Has it gone now? Has it finally gone?
Oh, no, there's still a little snow outside. No, just kidding. It's unbearably
Jinx.
hot now.
Oh, good. One extreme to the other. That's what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
There was like a very short window, pun intended, where we could like open our windows and not have our air conditioning on, just to get like some fresh air into the house. And then
Mm.
it was just all of a sudden way too hot. Like I would look at our thermostat and it would be 89 degrees in the house and it's not even that hot outside. So,
Wow.
yeah, and also that's when all of the allergens came into our house and I had my fun skin reactions and then there were also these I think it was in Canada these forest fires which
Oh, really?
the smoke was visible in the air here and even as far as Sioux City because my friends were talking
Oh,
about it down
wow.
there. So it was kind of like, oh, we should probably close up the house so we're not just
Yeah.
inhaling all of the smoke.
Yeah, probably a wise decision.
Mm.
Mm.
No, I liked it. It's good for you.
It's good for the skin, all that ash. Ooh.
Yep. So I'm glad to hear you had some good weather and a nice weekend. I didn't do a great deal because I'm kind of behind on work. So I spent some time doing that. And oh, well, I made a TikTok page for a podcast.
Oh, say
And
more.
I will. Don't anticipate a lot of original TikToks of me doing things or of Gemma doing things, but maybe no promises that we won't either
What, you're not going to
because
do
I'm still
dances?
I mostly just because I haven't used TikTok in any way other than to just view
Mhm.
TikToks that I'm not sure I really know all that goes into. I mean, people do some really elaborate ones.
I know. I'm not on
So maybe.
TikTok, but people send me videos.
Yeah, like, that's why I ended up downloading the app because it was just, like, easier to view things, but,
Mhm.
our account number our name number is it's Talking Shit with Yank and a Brit, that's, like you'll see it in our little image thumbnail for our show, but, the at is at TSWAYAAB, or in other words, the first letter of each word of our show.
Lovely little acronym.
To
Is that what it is?
swab.
To swab.
Yeah.
Go to our to swab page.
Yep, follow us and you will see things. I will post things. It's the same for Twitter as well. The
Cool.
same like at symbol. So
Awesome.
there's
And there will
that.
also shortly be an Instagram page for the pod, which is not yet live, but it's pending. So once I've done that, I'll put it in the show notes.
I would say that that means that people will not be inundated from our personal accounts for a podcast, but that'd be a lie. I'm still going to inundate people on Instagram anyway.
Great. Well, how exciting.
That was, I think, probably what I was most productive around. Yeah,
Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
you're
Thank you for
welcome.
your service.
Well, you do. For the listeners at home, Gemma is the brains and the artist behind the editing of our podcast, posting of it, the hilarious reels and clips and teasers for our episodes. So she basically does all of the work. I just show up. I thought I could maybe pull my weight a little bit.
Yeah, do some fucking work, Kate.
Fine. I will.
Fine.
Um, so you sent me something interesting earlier today,
Hmm.
that I thought maybe would be a good topic of conversation for us today, and it was specifically this clip of someone interviewing folks. Was it in London? Do you know, or just somewhere in
I
England?
don't know, somewhere in England, yeah.
About how much things cost in the US, specifically relating to like medication and necessary medical care, like
Mm.
ambulances and stuff. And I think the thing that's was not a surprise to me, but was pretty illustrative of the differences in our healthcare systems was the folks getting interviewed's reaction
Yeah.
to the price of an inhaler and the price
Mhm.
of insulin was it EpiPens or insulin?
EpiPens, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it was guess the cost of um God, I've just had a mind blank. What was the first one?
inhaler, like
Inhaler,
albuterol.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, guess the price of an inhaler in the US. And for those listening in the UK, it was $350.
I think it was a range, but yeah, 250 to 350. And the first girl was like 100 and the guy was kind of like, "Oh, you already kind of have an idea about this, but it's
Mm.
higher." So, um and EpiPens that I
Two
actually don't.
EpiPens
Oh, right. Okay.
was
Which are life-saving.
600. Yeah.
Yeah. And insulin too, that's the thing I could speak to is like I don't need insulin, but I've heard about it is like people insulin is so expensive that
Mm.
people have like had to ration it or go without and have died. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
children
I've
have
read
died.
about that
People
as
have
well.
died because of it. And that's even with I think insurance covering it.
Really?
Yeah, cuz
Wow.
insurance is like just kind of the I think the biggest issue. Um
Mm.
and then the ambulance one which was like 2,000 to 2,500 to call cuz the guy had asked he's like $100.
Yeah.
No, sir.
It's cheaper to get a taxi,
Yeah.
surely?
I guess the taxi's not gonna be, like, hooking you up to life-saving
Yeah,
equipment,
yeah.
though, so hopefully you don't need that.
Well, you never know. Could be a doctor moonlighting, you know?
I think, though, people have like, they're in public, something happens to them, someone calls an ambulance, and they're like, "I decline this because I can't afford it." So I
Wow.
will get myself to the hospital somehow. And I think that's if their ability to, like, say that. Some people
Mm,
might not, and then they get there and they're like, "Fuck, that's gonna be expensive."
yeah. It makes me really, I mean, I know, like, obviously you guys have insurance
Mhm.
which covers it, but not everyone does. But it's not even something we think about here in the UK because of our NHS, the National Healthcare System.
Can
You
you
know,
talk about that generally, like how it works, what it does, how it's paid for?
yeah. So it's essentially our healthcare system is it's funded by general taxation and national insurance contributions. So we all basically get taxed out of our pay packet every month a certain amount, which is then contributed to the NHS basically.
Mhm.
And also, what goes into it is like um, people paying for things like prescriptions and dentist fees, things like that. So you can go to a dentist on the NHS, but mostly our dentists are privatized, so a lot more expensive. So that's how it's all paid for. So it's kind of it comes out of our pay packet before we even see it. The amount you pay depends on how much you earn, and that's how our healthcare is funded. So it's not something you even think about really. It's like thank God for the NHS. It's fucking brilliant.
So you have to go to the doctor for your annual lady exam,
Hmm.
right? That we have to do because we're special.
Yeah.
And you basically don't you walk out no bill. You don't have a
No.
copay, you don't
Nope.
have like if you pick something that the doctor recommends that maybe isn't like something you do every time, you don't have to pay that. Like there's not. Oh, okay. So
Nope.
everything's covered.
Everything's covered. Birth control, the checkups, any tests, um, anything like that. The only downside of it is because the NHS is stretched, and obviously, you know, procedures and certain scans and tests are expensive. So, there are cases where if something's wrong, they might not necessarily go to the most like the test that could find the results the quickest,
Mhm.
if you know what I mean. Like, so if
Yeah.
someone had like a stomach pain, they wouldn't necessarily go like straight to a CT scan. They do an ultrasound first because it's much cheaper, and
Mhm.
so it can take longer sometimes to diagnose things.
Well, that's true
Um,
here too.
yeah, but in general, it is great. Like, yeah, you break your arm, get an ambulance for free, go to A&E, and they'll plaster you up. Off you go.
Is there so there's pros and cons to every system, right?
Hmm.
You said it's stretched, and that could be because there's so many people and not enough providers. That could be because there's so many people who aren't paying in because of unemployment or age or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Um, are there things that you have to like wait for if it's not an emergency, or is there like you can't get an appointment for a particular thing until 3 months away, or like is that a thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, serious things such as cancer, things like that, are generally pretty quick. But I know that the pandemic put wait times back a lot, and there's people that have been waiting like 2 years for operations.
Yeah,
Um,
they probably prioritize like like life or death at this
yeah,
point, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, there can be long wait times, especially for things like mental health. I know.
Mhm.
I think again, it's like a 2 year wait to see a therapist or a counsellor. So obviously, people have to go private for that, really, if you want to speak to someone, which is a bit shit. But yeah, it's lack of resources. I think. I mean, I'm no expert, um, so if I'm getting this wrong, please do tell me, listeners.
Silas.
So let's help. Um, but I think Brexit had a big effect on it. Like we lost a lot of doctors and nurses because of that. Also, we pay our doctors and nurses terribly. So there's just a real lack of people training to be
Mhm.
doctors and nurses now. Um, you tend to get the higher ups in the NHS, so like sort of the senior management or whatever they may call them, get paid a lot of money
Mhm.
to make decisions, but then the people actually doing the work don't get paid a lot. And there's been loads of doctors and nurses strikes recently
Mm.
to try and increase their pay, which they fucking should. I mean, just looking at the pandemic,
Mhm.
they had to work all through that, and they were absolutely exhausted and burnt out, and still are, and they're getting paid peanuts.
Well, and I think people think like, oh, being a doctor, you're gonna make a tidy sum, right?
Hmm. And the problem is that's them pushing doctors and nurses to go into private healthcare because they get
Yeah.
paid a lot more. And in my opinion, I think this is our government's plan because the Tories want to privatise the NHS because they can make a shitload more money from it. And I think they're secretly letting that happen so that the NHS falls on its knees, um, and we don't have it anymore.
That was gonna be you because you referenced private. So what I'm interpreting is that there are providers out there
Hmm.
in the healthcare field who don't like they don't cut aren't included in the NHS. So if you
No.
went to see them, you'd be paying out of pocket. But
Yeah.
is there also private insurance that you can like get?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can take out healthcare insurance. Again, I guess that probably works much the same
Mhm.
as your system does. And some employers give healthcare insurance as well. Um, it's quite rare, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and you'll get obviously a faster treatment and
Yeah.
probably a little bit more in-depth investigations into what's wrong,
Mhm.
and things like that. But yeah, I think it's great. Like, I mean, I pay for my pill now just because it's quicker to order it online. But before that, I'd never had to pay for birth control or
Mm. Mhm.
anything like that. You just go and see your doctor. They do a little checkup. Here you
Yeah.
go. Lovely jubbly. But yeah, it is like the GPs, which are under the NHS, they're like really stretched. Like, for example, in my town, the problem is they're building loads of new houses and things and growing towns without putting the infrastructure in to deal with it. So my local GP are now not taking any new patients.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like, okay,
So then where
well,
do those people go who need to see
exactly.
someone to
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just like, you can't get an appointment for like weeks, or you have to call up at 8 a.m., be on hold for like an hour to try and get an emergency appointment.
Yikes.
It's
Yeah.
a bit crazy at the moment.
So I remember there was like I saw I think it was on Reddit. It was a question of like, what do you think would happen if like the US and or the UK like swapped healthcare systems? And the response was like both like the either country or both countries would riot, right? Because we as a country here have this kind of very I think it's like two different it's a dichotomizing subject anyways where it's like people think that nationalized healthcare would be better and everyone's like we're not communists and look at the all the countries I have and blah blah blah. So um we have I think this is where I can't speak to a lot of different scenarios and expertise in some of the political stuff of it all. But because I've always been blessed with being able to have private insurance, like my parents carried it, I was covered on it until I was
Hmm.
like 26. And then every job I've had, my employer offered subsidized insurance. So, like, they pay a portion, I pay a portion pre
Hmm.
tax, comes out of my
Right.
paycheck, much like NHS.
Hmm.
And it's always been pretty decent insurance, too. Um, though, to cover Sean and I, there might be something called a deductible, which means like we have to pay that out of pocket first before insurance covers
Yeah.
it. And
Hmm.
Sean, like nothing infuriates him more than like having to pay like we do out of our paycheck and then have to still pay
Yeah.
when we go to the doctor, which I get. And then when we get the bill because he, not to give too much information, but like he had a health issue, and then like the bill afterwards, and I was like, oh, that's not that bad, all things considered. And he's like, what? That's not that bad? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I have good insurance because it would have been a lot more than that. And he was
Mm,
just so horrified. But I get it because of where he came from and what that
yeah.
looked like. And, we're both generally healthy people. So the stuff that I get care for, whether it's my like lady stuff or just like a general like visit to the doctor, normally I don't have to fork over my card for
Right.
anything.
Hmm.
And um my any medication is usually requires a deductible too. So like we have like in office visits and stuff like that as a deductible, medication as a deductible. It's complicated. It really
Mm,
is. And at some point I'm just kind of like whatever. So we have this thing called a health savings account that takes money out of my each paycheck. Also pre-tax, I think. But each year I get the full amount that I elect to have. So if I pick $2,000, um, I'll get the $2,000 immediately available to me to use for healthcare expenses
right.
at the first of the year, but it'll be deducted out of my paycheck over the course of the year, right?
Hmm.
Rather than all at once. So that's nice, which
Yeah.
means that we might have like, $2,000 to spend on, kind of something more expensive if need be.
Mm,
And, we also like we have 3 different insurances. We have like our healthcare, we have our dental, and then we have vision. They're not all the same.
right. Okay.
Vision and dental are not super expensive. The like actual health insurance can be. We just switched over with my job, so it's like kind of cheap right now. Originally, it was like 300 and some dollars a month or a paycheck actually, for both Sean and I, which is kind of high, but it's like
Mm,
also the most expensive plan because that was just you could go anywhere. You don't have to go to a doctor that's in network or a specific facility. That's another
right.
thing, in network and out of
Okay.
network. Um, but the vision's like $8 a month and dental's a little bit more. But the other thing that always kind of makes me laugh and I think is probably stereotypes both of our countries have about the other is like our weird obsession with teeth and dentists and stuff like that and what's available, and then the joke that like Brits always have horrible teeth here, right?
Yeah.
Uh but we go to the dentist. We can go like twice a month for cleanings, and like that's when they do x-rays, anything else, but you can also go if your mouth hurts and you just need to get in, right? That's
Yeah.
all covered. So,
I guess maybe
and it
that's like the difference because obviously we have the NHS for healthcare, but we have to pay for dentistry.
mhm.
That puts people off doing it, and maybe that's why we've got shitty teeth.
It is interesting to me though because like I firmly believe that like mouth health really impacts the rest of your body too,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, it can lead to like heart disease and
Yeah. And so like an ounce of what is that? An ounce of prevention is worth a something of I don't remember
a
the phrase,
penny in
but
the book.
bird in the hand, two in the bush. I don't know. Whatever. You guys all know what I'm saying. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like the preventative care really I think is cheaper in the long run because if you
Mm,
are going to the dentist when there's like a major issue and I think this is true here too. Some things won't get covered. Like my dentist told me, you must be stressed a lot because I can tell that you clench. And I'm like, yeah,
mm.
I think I do clench or grind my teeth at night. And they're like, you should get this mouth guard. And I was like, great. No, that's not covered. That would be like $800. And I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
why? If they covered that now, I probably won't have issues
Mm,
down the road that they will have to cover,
yeah.
you
And
know?
are they doing that on purpose so that you
Maybe.
then have to get further work done down the line?
Maybe, but like that doesn't benefit the insurance, you know?
No.
Because the insurance is the one that has to pay out for the work I need done. The
True.
dentist, I suppose, who's telling me to get this thing so I
Mm,
don't need work down the line would maybe be
yeah.
the one getting
Yeah.
the
Okay.
money,
Yeah.
but then they
Yeah.
wouldn't be telling me to get this thing, right?
True. Okay. So for exclusions, then, so like obviously, I remember watching Breaking Bad,
Mhm.
which he gets cancer and can't afford the
Mhm.
cover, or can't afford the treatment, so that's why he starts cooking up meth.
Mhm. Which is a very reasonable, rational way to go about it, I think,
Yeah, we'd all go
actually.
down that route.
That or self-eat pick.
Which is also a very viable option.
Yep.
Um, so is that like an issue? Can people get cancer and not be able to do anything about it? Like, how does that work if you don't have the cover in place? Will they still treat you?
So, I do think that is true. I think that, someone could have really garbage insurance that either might not cover everything or have a really high deductible. Because, like, you could have insurance, but it could say you have to pay $10,000 out of pocket before we cover anything, and it might be like, I will never reach that because A, I can't afford that, and B, like, I might just not ever need that, but by the time I do need something, I'm gonna have to pay $10,000
Mm,
and then insurance will cover it. I can't remember the details specifically for Breaking Bad, but he was a teacher, so my guess is he probably did have some insurance, and maybe it was just not super great, like what I was just
yeah,
describing. I do think though, like, there's a difference between treatment and then, like, life-saving care. So, if you were to go to the ER, either via ambulance or kind of on your own, and they need to save your life, they will, and then, like, you will just get billed that. But I think also because they can't deny life-saving treatment, then they also accept that there's some things that are just gonna be written off, and you're not gonna be able to pay it, they're not gonna get money from this, but they still have to. Like,
mm,
they have to provide life-saving care.
yeah,
But if you
okay,
show up
yeah,
and you're like, "I need chemo," they might be like, "Well, you're gonna have to pay for it." And
mm.
they'll do it, and you'll get billed afterwards, right? And then you might but
Okay, cool. Yeah, that answers one of my questions I had, because obviously I wondered what would happen if you didn't have any healthcare insurance, and you ended up in hospital. Like, so I remember I used to watch Scrubs a lot, and
Mhm.
there were, storylines on that where someone came in and needed something and they didn't have any insurance, and so they doctored the paperwork or just put it, through without anyone knowing about it and things like
Yeah.
that. Like, would there be ways around it, or would they just bill the person at the end?
Yeah. So, like, in my own experiences of just having to, like, be in the hospital for whatever reason, like, you get the care, and then the person comes in afterwards and is, like, talking about, like, "Do you have insurance?" You know, "Do you need financial resources?" Blah, blah, blah. And for me, it was always just like, "Yep, here's my insurance," you know?
Hmm.
So, I've never had to really worry about it. I also haven't had to, like, go to the hospital for a lot of things. It's usually just
Hmm.
like, "I'm super sick right now. Please help me."
Yeah.
Um, but they always have that, like, kind of financial person come in at the end. Like, I remember a relative of mine needed stitches when he was with me, and I took him, and, like, we basically just went to the one downtown, which is also, I think, probably where a lot of folks who are lower income or maybe don't have insurance go because I think they're kind of like the hospital that has the resources and maybe can cover stuff for people.
Hmm.
Um, and he was just like, "Yeah, here's my insurance," and we left, and the woman was like, "Oh god, that was super easy." So, but I think for, like, scrubs and stuff, some of it might not be the actual reality,
Yeah.
but if they're gonna do it, like, because they can't deny people life-saving coverage, but they might, not keep them in the hospital even if they're like, "It would be better if you stayed overnight," or people might just say,
Mm.
"I don't want to because I can't
Yeah.
afford this." Um,
Wow.
but I do think there's some financial resources that can be available. I very much think some people just don't pay their medical bills, and then either, like, they don't pursue it, or it goes to collections, and then you have
Hmm.
kind of this default on your credit,
Yeah.
which is also stupid because some people might wanna, like, try to buy a house or
Mm.
something, and they can't because they've got that poor credit because of it, and it's just because they were dying and needed it. It sucks, though, because, like, that's the other reason why healthcare costs are driven up is because of all the people who can't afford it, and then they can't. But also then insurance, it's very unethical insurance and the way it works with our system. This is, again, not something I'm fully informed on, but I just remember hearing stories about, like, I got ibuprofen from my doctor in the hospital, and it was on my invoice, like, $6,000 for the thing I can go to the gas station and get for 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Fucking hell. And also, I guess, like, you have the big pharma
Yep.
influence as well, whereas we, because of the NHS, don't have that. We, our NHS will buy the drugs at an agreed contracted price.
Mhm.
There's no one trying to sell the next big thing or like,
Yep.
you know, promote them to
Yeah.
doctors. Um, so I guess that must have quite an effect on it.
It does, and I think that, like you said earlier, your theory about, the leadership trying to get rid of the NHS, I think there are similar theories with some truth to it for us too, in that it's all just about money. It's
Mm,
like the big pharma lobbying, politicians getting, having vested interests in things. And that's why there's like not this push to make healthcare more accessible or cheaper.
mm,
It's kind of a battle between the Dems and the Republicans. And um, like doctors getting reps from medical, or pharma companies saying like do this thing. That's kind of how we got the opioid crisis,
mhm,
was from big pharma pushing these things, and then doctors just like have all the drugs. There's doctors out there who will just push those
mm.
things. And
So I spoke to Sean the other day and he said he had a dental
mhm,
issue that he had to go in for, like an emergency one.
mhm.
And they gave him some crazy strong addictive painkillers that he didn't want or need.
That's so funny you say that, because that one is not really considered the most addictive
Oh,
one.
really?
It can be, but it's
Mm,
a mixture of, it's hydrocodone, and it's mixture of, if I remember correctly, like Tylenol and like kind of an opioid or maybe an opiate light. But
mm,
people abuse it for sure. But it's definitely not the highest level one. And yes, it's a very
mm.
common one to get after a dental procedure here. And I think he didn't like them. He had them in the past when he had to get like wisdom teeth out or something, and just it did not make him feel good. And they gave it to him again, and he was just kind of like, I'm not going to take these. I don't like them. I don't like how they make me
No.
feel. And also, like, I don't know if he felt like he had enough pain to need
Exactly. Like, shouldn't they
them.
judge that, like, before
Yeah.
potentially giving out addictive opioids to people?
Yeah.
Like, that's mad. That's
Yep.
also another thing, like, I think the British view of America is that, like, everyone's, like, majorly over-medicated out there.
Mhm.
But again, it's the cultural difference that they won't give us unnecessary drugs because it costs the NHS money to do so. Um, Whereas, yeah, I mean, I've read stories of like kids being like super medicated really unnecessarily, and like
Mhm.
obviously you do have a huge opioid crisis,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there are doctors out there who very much want to not jump straight to medicating people right away, right? Especially if it's
mm,
in terms of pain. I think for kids, we're talking about like kind of psychotropic meds, like ADHD medication and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I agree. I think that there's been this like pendulum shift from, kind of ignoring things that need to be addressed to now like just kind of pathologizing kids and not thinking about like, is this kid just being a kid? Are
yeah,
there other things we can do in the meantime? It's a back and forth ebb and flow thing. But I also think there are doctors out there who are like, I'm like really are concerned about people drug seeking and are like, I'm not going to prescribe you this right away. Um, Particularly if I don't have a relationship with you already. That's why it's important, I think, to have, even though I'm bad about it. And since moving, I had a primary physician when I was living in Sioux City. Um, but it took me a minute to kind of get that established here. And once you develop that relationship with that doctor, like it's much easier to be like, this is what I'm thinking. Or if I went in to my doctor and said, I am wondering about this health issue, but I saw this thing, she wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, take all the drugs. But she also wouldn't necessarily be like, because you brought that up, I'm actually going to question your judgment
mm,
here. But I
right,
think this is something that, you and I've talked about talking about on this episode or on this podcast, and it might be good for today is like our advertising of
Yeah.
medications and stuff. And I know we touched upon it a little already, but people are going in and saying, I saw this thing on TV and I want it now.
Yeah, it was such a shock when I came over for the first time and saw medications being advertised, and not only that, it's like, the small print afterwards. So,
They say
like
really fast all the side effects. This might cause bleeding from your eyeballs, explosive diarrhea. You might die,
yeah, "Your liver might
spontaneous combustion.
explode, and you may die." It's just like, "What the fuck is happening here?" It's
But you know
crazy.
what? That rash is going to clear up really well. Yeah.
Yeah, that is yeah, that blew my mind because we just don't have that here
When I read that,
at
it's
all.
because you guys don't want like patients coming in
Mm,
thinking they have an issue needing a drug. Like, leave that to the expert, right? Go talk to your doctor about your issues and let them do their job to come to the conclusion. Whereas, here, eh, there are people you could go to and be like, I saw this commercial. I think, whatever. And they'd be like, okay, you can try it if you want.
mm,
Like, there are doctors that really will just do that and not think about the consequences. And that could be because they're overworked, they don't care, they're being paid, whatever.
yeah. So I sent you one the other week, didn't I? It was actually Christina Aguilera
Yes.
advertising a new type of Botox, I think it was. I'll see if I can find it. Um, and even on her post, like the fucking side effects were like crazy.
I hate wrinkles. I hate wrinkles more than I hate,
Like life.
yep, more than I care about having, my eyeballs fall out.
Oh, it's crazy. Oh, I don't know if I can find it now.
It was the Xeomin thing, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the drug. All right, let's see what the Xeomin side effects are. Itching, rash, redness, swelling, wheezing, asthma symptoms, dizziness, or feeling faint. So, you want to get rid of some of those
Uh,
forehead wrinkles. You might also develop, difficulty swallowing, respiratory infections, muscle weakness, flu like symptoms.
yeah. It says here, ask your doctor to tell you all about Xeomin. But the effects of Xeomin may spread hours to weeks. Hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be a sign of a life threatening condition. Fucking hell. Side effects also may include allergic reactions or injection site pain, eyelid drooping, or swelling. These are not
Yeah.
all the possible side effects of Xeomin.
Only in
Like,
rare cases have people died.
yeah, that's crazy.
There are some drugs out there that, like, the side effects clearly outweigh what it does, like chemo
Mm,
drugs, right?
yeah,
Chemo drugs, you're gonna maybe lose your hair, you're gonna feel like shit, but like that is kind of pales in comparison to having cancer, right? So I can
yeah.
see why knowing the side effects is important, but it is
Mm.
funny watching some of these commercials. Even I look at them and laugh, and it's like someone, like a woman, rollerblading and having a great time. And, I can show my skin because I don't, my eczema is cleared up because I take this Baltic or whatever. And then it's like the side effects, you actually might have a worse rash.
Please be aware that your sphincter may fall out of your ass.
Anal prolapse. But that's fine. No one will see that. They can see your ugly skin. Just wear a diaper.
So bad. I mean, we
Yeah.
obviously have like, when we have medications, there's side effects on there, but never anything like that. I wonder if our like medical approval for drugs is different here as well. Well, I mean, it
Yeah.
must be because we don't have anything as crazy as like,
I actually had something prepared for when we ultimately talked about this, and I didn't like do anything with it yet. But like Dupixent, this person was kickboxing, riding their bike, blah blah blah. But allergic diseases, eczema, asthma, nasal polyps might be side effects of
hmm,
this thing that I think was actually just for rheumatoid arthritis or something. I don't know. And then Ozempic, which treats type 2 diabetes, but you might also, this is the one that people are using for like weight loss now,
Right.
thus taking it away from people with type 2
Yeah,
diabetes.
well done,
But
guys.
I mean, I get it, like, fine, because they're now saying, like, it also might be helpful in addiction treatment. So,
Okay.
I mean, okay, but it's like pancreatitis, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, in addition to your weight loss and type 2 diabetes, whatever, no big deal.
Shit the bed.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's crazy.
it was in 1997 that the Food and Drug Administration here lifted restrictions on direct to consumer advertising. Previously, it was required that all the warnings were included, and that made the commercials very long.
Mm,
So they lifted that to basically major risks and just like where you can find more information.
right. Wow.
In 2002, a study found ads disseminated misleading information. In defense of the ads did not affect which uh, medications people ultimately got, but that they went and got help. So I think that's what someone was saying is like someone might see an ad, be like, I have that issue. I'm going to go see my
Mm,
doctor. So they might not actually get that med, but it at least prompted them to go get health care, which, okay, fine. But
mm.
maybe we just have commercials about common issues and just say, go see your doctor to talk about your options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. What a crazy world we live in.
Mm. I think overall, though, is there's no perfect system. I think that's what I've always kind of thought. There's no perfect system, but the best system to me is one that provides equal, like equitable access for people and like allows people to get care they need without
Yeah.
going to like life ruining debt or having to
Mm-hmm.
like sacrifice in some way. I'm very much of the opinion that I would rather like have my taxes and stuff go to that sort of thing than like the
Exactly.
military.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Like, obviously, the NHS isn't perfect because it is stretched, but I think our system is one of the best because, like, even if you haven't paid national insurance, you can still go and get
Like I
free
could come
treatment.
visit
Yeah.
having never paid a dime into national
Yeah.
insurance and get care. And I
Mm.
wouldn't have to get like travel insurance
Nope.
or anything like that. Like
No,
I would get cared for and I wouldn't have a bill.
exactly. But then we've also got private if you want to pay for private healthcare and go down that route.
I don't want to pay for anything. Why
We
isn't
got the
everything free?
best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, people have both, right? They might have private insurance to supplement
Mm.
things like going to the dentist or maybe, mental health care so that they can get it because I think the
Yeah.
one thing that I thought that maybe England was a little behind on, but maybe it's getting better, is kind of the conversations about mental health and like encouraging therapy, not necessarily medication, but just
Mm.
encouraging people to address mental health rather than,
Yeah.
and
It's
England's not the only
definitely in the
country.
forefront of it's being dealt with and talked about. It's just getting the help on the
Hmm.
NHS for that sort of thing is
Glad you recognize your suicidal ideation. You've got to wait 2 years before you
yeah.
can talk about it further, though.
Just hold on a little bit more, please.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Well,
Well, what a bummer. That's super glad we got to talk about that.
interesting though. I find it
It
fascinating.
is. Yeah, I think probably this could be an ongoing conversation too, just because I know, like, we could talk about the Affordable Care Act and Obama and people's
Mm.
thoughts about that and what that did for people
Mhm.
and how it just like there were changes that allowed me to stay on my parents' insurance until much older than what used to be the case. So I got to
Right.
stay on until I was 26. I was already like had my own job and was working by that point. So, yeah. Anyway,
Helpful, yeah.
for another day.
For another time, baby. Oh,
Yeah. Hey, I think that's the first time you did it for this episode.
I've
So,
refrained like 3 times from doing it.
nice. I hate that. I wish you would just feel free to be yourself.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Well, that took up a lot of time. Maybe we could move straight into the ick factor portion and save some of our other
Yes.
discussions for next time, and then I can do a little more research anyways.
Yeah, cool.
Cool, 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 cool.
Cool, 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 cool.
You want me to do it or are you doing it?
You do it.
Okay. So this is, I think, something that you and I have kind of noted. Interesting question. Maybe even talked about it in different ways, both on air and off air.
Mhm.
But it is interesting because I think we could both think about all of the times that maybe we've developed crushes, dated, short term, long term, whatever. And if we really sat down and thought about it, could pull up a lot of different examples of things. Some shallow, maybe some not. But the question is, have you ever gotten an ick from a potential partner or love interest that instantly killed your attraction to them? If so, what happened? And we can talk about some of the answers because this is a Reddit post, but I think I want to hear more about from you.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a few over the years, um, but some that spring to mind immediately are men revving their cars or driving ridiculously fast when there's fucking no need to do so.
Yeah.
And we think it's cool.
Mhm.
We don't.
No, in fact, my usual response is I wish my dick was that small when I hear that. Yeah. I also find that icky.
Mm. Also, just like general self care or lack of self care.
Mhm.
So, someone smelling bad, long toenails. Um,
Is that a dog? Oh no, it's just my date's feet clicking, toenails
scratching
clicking
along the
off.
floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I guess like mansplaining um,
Mhm.
can be really off putting,
Yeah.
especially like, I don't know, just in a really like toxic, arrogant way.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Especially when you're just getting to know someone and that's like
Yeah.
how they engage with you. Would just be like, "Fuck you, dude."
How about fuck you?
Eh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would agree with all of those. Those would be things that would be really kind of a turnoff for me too, and I'm sure probably were in reality. Just thinking about the numerous men that I've. I this is I think probably one that's true for a lot of people because I think it is a big deal. But like being a really bad kisser
Yeah.
is hard. And I specifically remember kind of like a few guys, like I could compare their kissing style to like an animal. Like one guy kind of seemed like a weird little snake, and one guy seemed like this like little mole rodent kind of. And I just, not that I was like, especially like the first time I kissed someone, I'm sure I was not great, but like I just, it seems to me that many either think like being like the tightest clenched mouth or like I'm gonna unhinge my jaw and
And use my tongue to fish out
and
your tonsils.
yeah, and
That's
then
the
you have to like
worst.
wipe your face afterwards or
Yeah.
just like really jam it in there. I don't know. I think like there's of course depending on the kind of vibe, like sure kissing might get a little more aggressive or something. I don't know, but just like the
Yeah.
first kiss is often the deal maker, deal breaker for
Mhm.
me. And there have been a couple guys where I was like, he was really hot, but I just no, I can't.
Can't do that.
Mm-mm.
Also, it's like, just follow what the other person's doing,
Mm-hmm.
but
They're probably sending you some cues.
some
Yeah.
people are just like, "Nope, this is what I'm doing."
Mm-hmm. I
It's
don't
like,
know if it would
dude.
be worth us trying to save the video from this episode and posting it somewhere because that was great. Yeah, that is a rough one.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell early on if you're gonna. I mean, there's probably been a few times where it's like, all right, I'll give him another shot, and then it
And then you're like,
probably never
"Nope."
got better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
So
one.
sounds like you agree.
I do indeed, yeah. That's a bit of a deal breaker. Bit of an ick.
I also this kind of it's similar with your kind of revving the engines and stuff. Like this whole like masculine aggro kind of like fighting behavior that sometimes guys like you bumped into me, I'm going to like fight you, kind of get really
Mhm.
aggressive. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'll give you an example because I think it's a really prime one that really fucking turns me off. I was on a date, sort of. This is a long story that I probably won't talk about today, but like I was out with a guy who there were a slew of other issues with him, but I think I it was just like, okay, yes, I'll meet up for a drink. And he was already, I think, pretty intoxicated at that
Mhm.
point too. When I met up with him, I didn't know at the time though. And we were at a bar, and some guy, older gentleman, like I was probably 23 or 24 at the time, and he was like 50s, 60s. You know, he was drunk too. He came out. It was just us sitting outside. He came out, and as drunk people are, especially when it's just two other people outside, they'll, made a comment to us like, "Oh, nice night."
Yeah.
And then he kind of went on to say, like, "Oh, you smell really nice." And kind of just generally chit chat, but was complimenting me. And my date was like, "Get the fuck away from her, or if you say anything about her again, I'm gonna take this glass and break it and cut the nose off your fucking face."
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just like, and he was like getting really aggro and aggressive and escalated about it, and I was just so embarrassed
Mm.
because yes, this old man was like, we didn't want him chatting with us, but he also was not bothering us really. He was just drunk, and
Yeah.
he wasn't even being super lecherous. But I was just like, I truly hate that. That kind of behavior really
Mhm.
bothers me.
Yeah. I had a similar thing once with a guy I was seeing. We were just walking down the road together, and he saw someone who he'd fallen out with, or I don't know, some beef had happened between them. And he ran across the road and like grabbed this guy by the throat and like started threatening him. And I was just like, wow, that was unnecessary. Like, Jesus. Like, one, you just ignore him. You're meant to be with me. And
He
that
didn't
is,
even engage with you.
no, it's just not attractive at all. Like,
Hmm.
it's just, yeah.
So did that end it after that, or
It didn't actually, no.
maybe just kind of led to the downhill
Yeah, that
trend of
started the
it ending?
downhill. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, mine didn't. The story I just told you, that wasn't quite the end of it either. It should have been. Many instances before that should have been as well. But it's one of those things where it's like it's implanted in your mind, and it probably guides future encounters and ultimately your desire
Yeah.
to even engage with that person
Hmm.
anymore.
And
So,
it shows you their character.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
red flag.
for sure. Some of the Reddit comments were,
Oh, yeah,
"I
give me
saw
some.
his butt crack while getting out of a car." Which, yeah, okay, fair. Could like, was it because was he not wearing underwear? Was it dirty? Like, I could see that, but I also think like sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'd be an instant deal breaker for me, but
No.
this one, he smelled like nacho cheese Doritos.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, so kind of going self-care, smelling bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Out of the blue, they told me they fuck someone at IKEA right before dinner.
Oh, overshare. Fucking hell.
Yeah. A guy peed his pants while driving my car and didn't even acknowledge it. We got back to his place and I bounced. Thankfully, I had a towel in my truck. Yeah. Yep. That would be, yep. Yeah, that would
Yeah, mate, I'm
be,
getting the ick from that.
yep.
Sorry, have you just pissed yourself?
In my car.
in in my car?
Yeah. Um, okay. I met a pretty cute girl for a date. When we met, she pulled out a stick of gum and littered with the foil wrapper. Like, boom, right there and then. I was so
Mm,
shocked. I was frozen and I didn't do anything. I was like 20 at the time. Inside, I was like, what the fuck? We walked around the park and talked a bit. Shortest, most awkward date ever. The one action made her so ugly to me.
yeah, littering. I'd be the
I mean,
same.
I can respect that, but I was expecting when I just glanced at it, I was like, oh, what did she do? Oh, she littered her foil. Like, pick it up and be like, I really hate litterers, man. And
Yeah.
then, but you said it was 20 at the time and stuff.
Mm,
So he was a balding adult male goth.
okay.
Just not your type, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell me what your thoughts are on this one, because I think this kind of goes into my like aggro, kind of unnecessary behavior. Rude to the waiter.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hate when people are just dicks for no reason.
There's no need for it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's not a good look and an immediate red flag on a date if someone's rude to the waiter. Or
He
anyone,
and
actually. Anyone of
yeah.
like a cleaner, taxi driver, bus driver, anything like that. Red
Yeah.
flag.
I mean, I even think like if someone's being rude to you, I would appreciate someone who kind of took the high road, right? But I
Mm,
get there might be some instances where I might be like, no, you were fucking right to do that. But
yeah.
yeah. All right, last one because it's funny. He ended our phone call saying he was off to have his din-dins.
Oh, that's a good
Mm,
one.
yeah, I suppose words could make a difference to
It
me.
depends how they say it.
Yeah. Maybe really bad grammar or spelling just consistently would be hard.
Mm, yeah, that
Yeah.
one's tricky, but then you can't, I don't know. It's hard to judge someone on.
Yeah, I suppose if they're like dyslexic or something or
Yeah.
just yeah. I it depends, right? I
Yeah.
suppose it'd be easy to do just meeting them, dating online dating and stuff, but if it were met him in person and was getting to know him and then they send me a text and it's like real bad,
Mm,
maybe I could let that go.
yeah.
Mm.
Any more?
Yeah, there's loads, but I mean someone said the N-word hard or yeah, that would be a
Wow.
big one for me. I would be repulsed and make sure I let them know that before I
Mm.
walked away.
Yeah, any form
Um
of like bigotry,
yeah.
racism, anything
Mhm.
like that, really.
Yep.
Just
Mm.
run.
Took off his jacket and was wearing a thin blue line shirt, which that is like pro police, just so you know.
That's what?
It I'll show you. It's like the thin blue line is like a symbol, like BLM, Black Lives Matter.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
that, but
Blue Lives Matter.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah,
vibe.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard no.
I think just because the connotation of it's kind of like if I would see this, I would see similar to me as seeing like the Confederate flag.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, okay, I
Mm,
know what you stand for and what
yeah.
you believe in.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. No, thank you. Ta-ta.
mhm.
I'm off for my
Yeah.
din-dins.
Okay, well, that was fun. I love talking about things that disgust us about other people.
Just spreading the word, man.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, but I think it's time for our weekly segment of Am I the Asshole?
You know you are, baby.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Am I the asshole for asking my roommates to remove their dildos from the bathroom mirror in a way that was not kind?
Oh, no, this is gonna be a hard one.
Okay. Last night, one of my roommates washed their dildos in the bathroom sink and suctioned them onto the mirror to dry. I used the bathroom shortly after, and when I came out, knocked on their door, and they said, "Who is it?" And I said, "Get your dildos off the bathroom mirror," and walked away.
Why did they ask who is it when they I mean, they brought okay, sorry. Yep, go on.
It's me, your dildo. Um, I went to bed later that night. The following morning, both dildos were still stuck on the mirror when I walked in, and again, I told them to get their dildos out the bathroom. They told me I need to ask them kindly instead of demanding, and I said that I shouldn't have to ask at all. We got into an argument about it. I'm worried that maybe I'm the asshole because I definitely didn't kindly ask, but it's not like I was mean or unkind either. As stated above, I feel like I shouldn't have to ask at all for my roommates not to leave their dildos in the common area,
Mm,
and the
mhm.
insistence that I ask them kindly feels like them trying to derail from my request for the dildos not to be left in the common area. Thoughts?
Okay, so I feel like there is perhaps there should be an unspoken understanding about items such as that being left in such a way that could impede the use of the room.
I mean, I
L-
just thought there was an unspoken
Yeah,
rule about that.
yeah. I think I or to me it seems like that is one of those things where if that is how that person cleans them and dries them and stuff, then like that maybe should have been a discussion because it's just sticking a dildo on a mirror in a bathroom is different than washing the dildo and like
Leaving it.
letting it dry in a towel, maybe like on a shelf or something.
Yeah.
Like they could have done that
Mm.
even. But I also think that this could have been an opportunity for that person. So they said I worried I'm the asshole because I definitely didn't ask kindly, but I also wasn't super unkind, to just like maybe a little demanding. But has this been an issue before where it's like, could
Mm.
you not do this? And they still do. Because then I would be like, I don't know if you're the asshole here. Like, you guys already talked about this. But if it was the first time they saw it, first time it's happened, it could just be like, do you think we could come up with a different way for you to do this?
Yeah.
Or
I
did you
mean,
just forget this one time? And so, like, hey, they're still in there. I have company coming over. Or I guess I wonder if this person's like kind of uncomfortable with dildos, which that is maybe a dynamic that they need to figure out for themselves. But I suppose like it would be like if I lived with you, Gemma, and you left your used tampons everywhere. I don't know. It's kind of just like don't do that. I'm trying to think of an equivalent because I don't want to like shame anybody, but it feels like that was not like the best way to leave it either. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah. Let it dry in your bedroom mirror. Do you know what I mean?
Well, like, or, stick them on there for the second. And then once you're finishing up cleaning up the bathroom, pull them off because now there's going to also be suction rings you're going to have to clean and like maybe drips. Like, you're going to be tidying up in there.
Dildo
I just don't,
drips.
just like do it in the bathroom, let them dry. And then when you leave, take them with you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That'd be the
That's
polite thing to do.
both people maybe are slightly assholes in this scenario. And I, because certainly the roommate could have asked better, but I also think that, like, to say, "I won't do it until you," like, they could have then went and removed him and been like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I would appreciate it if you didn't, like, bang on my door and yell at me if you
Yeah.
needed me to do something." They
Exactly.
both
Yeah.
could have probably talked about it a different way. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Very similar to yours, really. Um, I think I'd probably feel a little bit uncomfortable if someone left their dildo in the communal bathroom.
Mhm.
I'm not a prude, but I'd be like, what's your dildo doing there, mate? What are
Yeah.
you doing? Um, the top comment on this is great. There's a couple I want to read you actually. Leaving dildos on the mirror is a dick move.
Ba-dum-bum.
And the poster should have just taken them and put them in their room. And when the roommate asks, say that you used it. It was in the common area, so I assumed it was for everyone.
That would have been a really clever way to go about it.
Yeah, that would have been so good.
Yeah.
It's just a reflection of who they are.
Oh, this is a bunch of dads making dad jokes on this post.
Yeah.
Don't be such a dildo. I'm just trying to think if like that that wouldn't I would probably be so private about that I don't even know if I would want to clean them in the bathroom. It's
Yeah.
like I'll just do it in my room.
Some other people have suggested that maybe it was like a power move. Like, as you say, like some people wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Um, this person said, I'm a very open person, but when it comes to this stuff, I would not dream of leaving my toys out in a public common area,
No.
even when I lived alone, just in case someone stopped over. And if you're
Mhm.
feeling really petty, next time put on some rubber gloves and suction them to their window from the outside so that they can't reach it, or their car windshield. They'll get the message.
Yeah, yeah, that is something you could do.
Oh, the pettiness.
Yeah, it's just like the thing is there's like when you have a roommate, it's not the same as living with your family, on your own, with a partner.
Mm,
There are just certain things that I think you have to do kind of just out of mutual respect for your
yeah.
roommate, right? Like
Hmm.
like clean up the mess you made in the kitchen. And now people don't do that too, but that's where you get roommate beef.
Exactly.
So,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
then you start engaging in power struggles. And like I had a roommate in college whom I love dearly, and we joke about this all the time, but I can't remember exact circumstances of it. But I think we had people over, and someone peed in like a beer stein and like left it on the table.
Ah.
And either because neither of us knew who did it, whose guest it was, neither of us cleaned it up. Like I was like, I'm not cleaning up your friend's mug of piss, friend. And she's like, I'm not cleaning up your friend's mug of piss. And I was like, none of
Oh
my friends
no.
peed in that mug.
How long did it stay there?
Not super long, but I I'm 100% positive it was one of her friends, and mostly because I didn't have a lot of friends. But
Imagine if you just never cleaned it up. It just
yeah,
stayed there for 2
no.
years.
But we joke about the mug of piss because I was like,
Oh.
who did that, and how come like none of us realized that was happening? And I also now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if we actually were like, is that actually piss or is that just like apple juice?
Uh, should we
I
try
don't
it and
recall.
see?
That did not happen. The joke is just that mug of piss was there for a few days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Good
Oh,
times.
well, we've really put the world to rights there.
From healthcare to dildos to beer steins of piss, we've covered it all.
Solving the world's most difficult issues.
We're really doing good, clean work
I think we're doing the
for,
God's work, actually, aren't we?
yeah, I was going to
Mm,
say God's, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to say God's work. But yeah, we are doing God's work, the
yeah.
Lord's work, really.
Hmm. Amen, sister.
Amen, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Well, on that note, talked enough shit for today.
Yeah.
As we said at the top, please check out our TikTok, Twitter, upcoming Instagram pages, talking shit with Yank and a Brit. The TikTok and the Twitter are the Twayab. I can't Swayab. TSWAYAAB. You'll find us. Don't worry.
It's
We have an
not
email.
complicated at all.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. We have an email. Talk shit to us. Please, I would love to hear some of our listeners' ick factor. Like,
Mm,
put huge turnoffs, things that just made you not want to see someone anymore.
yeah.
Um, interesting experiences with healthcare in the US or the
Mm,
UK. Maybe what your thoughts are about the dildos on the mirror.
yeah. Have you ever stuck
or
your dildo to a mirror?
or, if I was in the wrong or my roommate was in the wrong about leaving that glass piss.
Yeah, who was the arsehole in that scenario?
Let us know. Talk shit to us at gmail.com. Like, rate, subscribe, review, give us 5 stars. Tell everyone about us because we're funny and charming and wise and cute and affluent and just really good friends.
Yeah, all of the above. What she said.
All right.
All
Love
right.
you, Gemma.
Love
Have
you
a good rest of the
too. And
week.
you. Ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Bye.
G-Bag. Remember when I was telling you the other day about how it's hard for me to leave my home because I don't want to leave my blender?
Yeah, your emotional support blender, you called it, which I thought was weird and maybe a little problematic.
I said it feels like my emotional support blender because of how many smoothies I make and how good I feel these days because of them.
Okay, go on.
Well, I found something the other day that may solve my problem.
Oh, tell me more.
I discovered this thing called BlendJet 2. It's a portable blender that you can use basically anywhere or anytime.
Seems messy.
I know, but it doesn't look like it is. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach.
More like a margarita at work, know what I'm saying?
Or that, but it's also small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet. so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house, and it lasts 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. So, not messy at all, I don't think.
Okay, I'm intrigued. And now I want a margarita.
Me too. It looks like there's tons of different styles and colors, so you can have a margarita BlendJet for work, a protein BlendJet for the car, and a...
Soup BlendJet for the forest?
Sure.
Oh, I want the camo one because I am a certified badass.
Just don't lose it in the woods.
Okay, so what are we waiting for? These look awesome.
I know. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. And be sure to use the promo code TSPOD12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. BlendJet feels so strongly that no other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They'll guarantee you love it or your money back.
Gotta love the confidence and the ability to blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code TSPOD12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping.
Shop today and get the best deal ever. I'll cheers you with our BlendJet margaritas next time I see you.
Brilliant. Cheers.